Welcome to the Upshot, Multi-World Disc Golf's podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. I'm Charlie Eisenhood, joined by Josh Mansfield, and it's a lovely early Thursday in December. Thanks for being with us today. We're glad to have you. And Josh, we got a fun little show, don't we?
We do. I think we've got some unique segments today and some unique news that I'm excited to talk about. So,
all right. Well, let's jump right in. We got an email from Matt, a listener, and Matt had this to say. I'm a 57-year-old COVID disc golf fanatic, and I think I have a good segment idea called What Are the Top 5 Disc Golf Announcements to Come? My top one will solve the age-old question, live versus Jomez. And his future hypothetical announcement is, the Disc Golf Network announces that the 2022 schedule has secured a sponsor and will be free to all. So, he suggests that we fill in the other 4 announcements to come. So we'll do that. First and foremost, do you see that happening, Josh? Whether in 2022, which I don't know about that, or in the future, that the Disc Golf Network secures a big enough sponsor to open up the paywall?
I think it's a very real possibility. The problem I have nowadays, though, is that I don't think in the future that it becomes a point of just having a sponsor to cover it. I think that the trend is that streaming services like this go towards more, subscription style of being able to consume this kind of content. So I think a more likely announcement is actually that Jomez goes up behind a paywall because YouTube does some sort of have to subscribe for their basic edition for $10 a month or something. So I think in the past, this would have been a key goal of the Disc Golf Pro Tour, but my gut tells me that just the way we're headed with streaming services, that everything is going to be subscription-based in the next couple of years. And so I think it's more likely that Jomez ends up being behind some sort of subscription, whether by their own doing or by YouTube's.
I think I could see something like this happening, but it would be for a select set of tournament series.
Yes, I gotta see that.
Or they get a final round sponsor, which they're already putting final rounds of the large majority of their events on YouTube for free. So getting a sort of a headline sponsor for that could make a lot of sense. But I could also see them unlocking entire tournaments thanks to brand X. Right. The idea that they're going to completely go away from a 25,000+ person subscription plan. I mean, I think it's hypothetically possible, but is a company going to want to pony up enough to make that happen? And would the Pro Tour even want to do that? It's just like they have a base of revenue coming in that's, well, after fees, well over $100,000 a month. How are they going to go away from that? I just don't see that happening anytime soon. But the idea of more stuff being free, and keep in mind, they're doing something like this, right? PDGA members next year will have access to select events for free via Disc Golf Network. Right. And then there's the standard paid tier that kind of gets you the whole package. So I think there's some truth to this, but I doubt we'll see a completely free open paywall for everything.
Mm-hmm. Which means pirating of Disc Golf Network is coming.
I think it
does for all major sports. I think you're right.
I've heard that it's already happening, which is pretty whack. I gotta say.
Yeah. I think I don't remember if you said it on the show or not once, but we were talking about it, and you said, we've made it as a real sport when people are pirating your streams.
Yeah. I get it to some extent. People don't want to pay for stuff they can find for free, and they don't care if they're doing something illegal. I mean, I have tried mightily to be able to watch Knicks basketball for a reasonable price. It's on the MSG network, and it's in the cable packages and stuff in the New York City area, but it is outrageously expensive to get a cable package. I haven't ever had cable in my adult life. And it's $65 to $70 a month. And I can't pay that because I will watch almost nothing else. Like the only reason I want it is to be able to watch the Knicks games, and like I want them to give me a way to pay the money to watch the Knicks that is not an outrageous price. And there's no way to do it. So I often watch illegal streams or I go to a sports bar.
Sure.
And, you know, I guess I don't feel as bad when it's like a mega conglomerate. And it's not like I don't give MSG my money. I go to the games and I spend my money on tickets and merch and food and everything else. But, you know, when it's Disc Golf Network and it's like our little sport, you know, you not paying the $5 a month is really, really cheap, and you should not do that.
I agree with you there. I think they're two very different scenarios.
Yeah. I mean, at least I rationalize it that way.
Right. Look, when they start charging me, what does UFC charge? Like $80 for a primetime fight? When they start charging me $80 around per pay-per-view, then we'll talk. But right now, come on.
All right, so let's get into our own picks here of announcements to come. So future announcements, and the rule is we have to put a date on all of these. So you don't just get to hypothetically say, oh, you know, sometime in the future. You have to pick a date and stick to it. And we're going to start, somebody suggested this, I think it was Frank. He said, if we're going to make predictions, we need to track them and then come back and evaluate our predictions. And 100% agreed. 100% agreed. There's no, you know, we're not going to call in Cowherd out here and make awful picks every week on the show and then kind of, you know, duck them. We're going to go back and we're going to look. And that includes like more sort of standard predictions of, you know, things that are going to happen next year or whatever. So I love Inside the NBA does this on TNT. They got their little sticky notes. So we're going to do that. And maybe I'll even make like a sticky note wall behind me here. We can like put them up here.
That'd be fun.
And evaluate them on a regular basis. So let's get into it. Josh, I'll let you go first. What's your first announcement to come? Future looking.
My first announcement is that Worlds is going to be held in Europe. I think Europe is the most logical place to go after the United States. I think there's going to be a push. I picked 2026 for my date. Okay. Here's the reason why. I think it could have been earlier, but you have to remember that the World's bid process usually is a couple years out, which means they would be bidding for like 2024, for example, very soon. And with COVID the way it is, I don't know if anyone would feel comfortable enough selecting Europe as the location. I think we have to wait a couple of years for the COVID situation to settle down a little bit more, and then we could see them putting in a bid, then being a couple of years later. So 2026 is the number I came up with, and that's my rationale behind it.
So I can share this news because I just learned this. You know, I've been hoping this happens. And we know Emporia will host Worlds in 2022. The 2023 announcement is coming very soon. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if we heard about it sometime in the next few weeks. It will not be in Europe because there was no bid from Europe. And
that makes sense.
You know, the general consensus is that if it's going to come from Europe, it's probably going to be run by UC Merisma, who, you know, runs the European Open. And I talked to UC about it, and he said that they were going to put in a bid and then they didn't because there was just too much going on with Discmania, and like it's such a big undertaking, so they didn't put one in. And there's also some like concern right now. A lot of courses in Europe are like under siege a little bit. Some of these big, so like the Nokia courses, there's like a golf course that wants to come in and like take over that land basically. And there's kind of like negotiations going on what that's going to look like. You know, I don't think this means the end of elite disc golf courses in Europe or anything, but you know, we've seen it with Yarva, a lot of changes there, and the potential for that to be completely wiped out. And so now we have this issue with Nokia. So there's a little uncertainty there. I think 2026 is a pretty good guess. I might put it a year earlier, 2025. But it's coming. I agree with that. Here's my first one. Okay. And this is a little bit of a hot take. I'm calling this for next year.
Okay.
Disc Golf Pro Tour tournament coverage to air live on ESPN3 or ESPN Plus, their online streaming services. this is the natural outgrowth of their current ESPN partnership, right? So they've been doing the post-produced packaged shows that air on television.
Mm-hmm.
The logical next step is to do some actual live. I toyed with the idea of saying it would be on ESPN2, but it's hard for me to imagine them, opening up a 3 or 4 hour time slot for disc golf on ESPN2 at this point, especially with there's like a fairly high bar for quality that goes on a network, cable on
Sure.
ESPN. That bar is lower for the online streaming platforms. And I think it would make a lot of sense. ESPN Plus subscribers getting access to a disc golf event here and there. I think it's just a natural next step. And in my mind, what would this mean? I don't think it would mean ESPN comes in and does the production. I think they would basically take the Disc Golf Network coverage and just stream it to 2 places.
Sure.
And, I think the DGN coverage is certainly good enough to live on ESPN Plus and look professional.
100%. Yeah. Interesting. You think it's this year, though?
I'm calling 2022.
Wow. It's a hot take.
It's a hot take.
It's a hot take.
We'll go snake. I'll go my second one, and then you go.
Okay. All right.
Here's my next one. Announcement. Disc golf manufacturer is acquired by a golf conglomerate. 2028.
You mean like I'm throwing TaylorMades now?
Yeah. I would expect, actually, that in an acquisition, they would keep the brand.
Definitely.
It would be Discraft by TaylorMade or something. But the whole point would be that, like, some golf company is like, disc golf is growing so fast, we need to get involved in this. Like, this is a massive opportunity. And they come in and they buy up some disc golf company. Now, Discraft, Innova, I actually don't know that those are the prime targets, just because they're already so big and established. Like, they would have to want to, get bought out, basically.
Right.
But a slightly smaller company would be a really good target, I think. And I do think golf and bigger sports companies are going to start sniffing around disc golf at some point. So I'm saying 2028. That's pretty aggressive timeline. But if we keep growing the way the sport has been growing the last couple of years, even if it slows down, which, I mean, it's guaranteed to slow down, but if it continues to grow 15, 20%, the sport's going to be really big by 2025. Yeah. And I think that golf companies are probably already paying attention to disc golf. And it's just a matter of time.
I really want to go to my golf friends and tell them they got a new TaylorMade driver for $25 and watch their faces. Be like, yeah, come check it out. And then we show up at a disc golf course and they're bamboozled. I like it.
My rejected idea is that a disc golf company will go public.
Oh.
I don't think it's big enough. I think we'll see acquisitions and mergers before we see any kind of public company. There's really only one public golf company, if you can believe that.
Which one?
And so if there's only one public golf company, I don't think we're going to see public disc golf companies anytime soon.
Which company is public?
I want to say it's like the Callaway brand. Okay. Let me tell you, because that would actually be a company that would be potentially interested in acquiring a disc golf company. Yeah, it's Callaway. Ticker is Callaway, ELY. Okay. And they own a lot more than just Callaway. I think they do clubs, balls, bags, golf-related accessories. They also merged with Topgolf. Have you ever been to a Topgolf?
Oh, I have not been to a Topgolf, but I will be in Dallas for a conference in February, and my goal is to go to a Topgolf.
100% go. It's so fun.
Okay.
It's like helped breathe life back into golf, I think. And then golf obviously also benefited greatly from pandemic times.
Sure.
But yeah, the market cap on Callaway Golf Company is $5 billion. So they're doing just fine.
Yeah.
4,200 employees. They also own Ogio and some other smaller brands. All right, so what's your next one?
My next one is actually an announcement that's been teased, but I think it's going to get delivered on, and we're going to have a formal announcement. Full benefits to touring pros and tour card holders in 2023.
2023.
Yes. So Jeff Spring has said, this is the year they're going to do the 2022. They're doing the tour card. 2023, they're hoping to offer benefits. I think that they are going to deliver on that. I think we're going to hear formal announcements with what that includes.
Let's talk about what you think that's going to include. What do you mean when you say full benefits?
Okay, maybe, yeah. So I imagine benefits include some sort of a health insurance, whether that be like with partial discount, discount or matching from Pro Tour to some extent, right? Like affordable health insurance that is, because right now, I'm sure for disc golfers who have health insurance, if I had to guess, I would bet some of them go to the exchange, the public exchange, and because their employer or their employer doesn't have health insurance, then they qualify for incredible subsidies. So if the Pro Tour is going to offer benefits and consider them, in whatever capacity, it has to be done in a way that is ensured to be affordable so that they don't screw disc golfers out of the opportunity just to get publicly exchanged health insurance at a subsidized rate. So I think there's going to be some sort of health insurance, health benefits, whether that includes vision or dental, I don't know. And then I think this probably also includes some sort of option for like disability in the case of injury.
Workers' comp?
I think, yeah. If they get injured, that they can earn a small amount over the course of that injury, thanks to a deal brokered with an insurance company.
Interesting.
I think that's a critical benefit that I hope they're exploring. And the final one that I think they really need is like a 401k of some sort, right? That you can take 10% of your winnings and just stick them in your into a 401k, tax-free money that just gets put aside for retirement. If it's an official 401k or if it's like money that I don't know exactly what the terms of that would be, because retirement age is a little weird for a disc golfer to think about. But I think those are the three in my head that I think are important for a disc golfer.
Now, the question I'm mulling in my head is whether 401ks have to be employer sponsored. And I think they do. And does the Pro Tour count as an employer? No, right?
Probably not.
So the question is, could they offer a 401k despite the fact that they are not employing the players? I mean, I agree with you in the general principle here, which is like some kind of retirement account. And, honestly, maybe they just make it really easy and they say, hey, we partnered with such and such company. We're going to offer, we want to help you set up a Roth IRA. Which,
perfect.
Or an IRA, either one.
All right.
We're going to get into the tax details here. And we're going to give you, because normally you would do it as a percentage of income. I guess you could do it as a percentage of winnings. It would probably make more sense to have a fixed amount where we say, we're gonna every year you earn a tour card, you get $1,000. We give you $1,000.
We'll match $1,000.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Some way of setting up some kind of retirement savings vehicle, even if it can't be a 401k explicitly. I really just don't. As a not a tax attorney, I don't know the rules behind whether you can offer a 401k to people who are essentially contractors or like playing in your events. That's like a kind of like a black box there. But I think the idea of we're going to offer you these things, an opportunity to get healthcare in a streamlined way through our company, a streamlined way to get retirement, Sure, like a workers' comp, some kind of like if you're missing events, you get some small stipend. Maybe I'm a little more skeptical of that one because
it's fair.
Again, it's like not having that employer-employee relationship makes that a lot more complicated. But some kind of fund to help players with time off when they're missing time and they can't earn money playing in events.
I want to make the case for that one real quick, because I'm sure some people are thinking like, what in the world, why would the Disc Golf Pro Tour offer that one, right? Like injuries are common, they're guaranteed to happen. If Simon didn't have the kind of brand that he already did, he probably would have had to leave professional disc golf. To take a year and a half off of tour, one, the healthcare costs would be enormous, and I'm sure they were. But two, he would have had to find another source of income. He may have, he through his brand and his YouTube channel, it seems like he had a reliable source of income elsewhere. But for players who are maybe not quite as established of a brand, if they are to miss that time, it may mean them having to go find other work elsewhere.
And maybe they just wash out completely.
And they're done, yeah. And they just can't. And that is bad for the Disc Golf Pro Tour. When you're losing pros, like, I think of it, people like, and especially if this is end of contract year, right? What if Garrett Gerthy was out playing right now and hurt himself, and Nineveh decided not to renew his contract because of it, right? Maybe another place signs him, depending on the injury. Maybe they don't. Garrett Gerthy doesn't have the kind of social media presence and brand that Simon did to keep him afloat, in my opinion. But I mean, I don't know his finances, obviously, and so that becomes a real risk for some of these tier players. That's look. I don't want to see Garrett Gerthy leave disc golf to sell jerky because of an injury. And I think this is something that's important to making sure that especially young players can stay on tour despite circumstances.
Completely.
Which is good for the Pro Tour.
Completely agree. I mean, I think the Pro Tour needs to be thinking about that. And like I've talked about how they need to be a little more thoughtful about scheduling tournaments. You can't have 4 back-to-back Elite Series events on 4 straight weekends. Like, you are asking to hurt people. Like, that is how people get hurt. And you can say all you want that people can skip events, but we're talking about livelihoods and bonus structures, and like the incentives are so strong to play those events. Then you have people overexerting and maybe getting hurt, and you don't want that, right? You don't want that for the players, of course, but you don't want it for the Pro Tour either,
right?
And so I mean, I think like the health insurance issue is like huge on its own and needs to get solved as soon as possible. If I was a player, I'd be demanding like a set aside like you negotiate your salary or whatever with your manufacturing sponsor. And then you say, I also want $350 a month that is specifically for my health insurance premiums.
An HSA, a health savings account. That could be a very likely way they do this, where they send the players to the exchange just to get the public insurance, and then they give them an HSA of $150 a month to help pay down the deductibles.
Sure. For when they have to go in. Right. I mean, having a high deductible health plan for most of these players is going to make a lot of sense. They're not going to be in the hospital regularly in most cases, and having an HSA, it's like a great tax savings vehicle as well. Anyway, love the concept. I hope you're right. I hope we see it in 2023. Although I have a sense that, it could take a year or two longer than that.
Possibly. I'm going to be optimistic.
You got number 3. What you got?
I do. I'm going to say the first payout hits $100,000 for a single player, like for the winner.
$100,000 winner payout.
Yep.
Okay. The highest we've seen is 30.
Yep. My date is 2030.
2030.
So, yeah. I'm giving it some time.
We've gone from like 10 to 15, which is where it sat for literally a decade. Like, we saw some $10,000 payouts back in like 2008. And then we went to 20, and then we went to 30. And that's in the course of like 2 years. With sponsors starting to sniff around, it's not impossible to imagine it getting to 40 or 50 even next year, and then like $10,000 a year more. Disc Golf Pro Tour Championship. I mean, 100,000. What did you say? 2030?
2030.
I'll take the under.
You take the under. Okay. I think the consideration to bring into account is that you have to remember, I mean, right now the standard is, for the Pro Tour especially, for the Pro Tour Championship, where I think this would happen, is a payout that is matched for MPO, FPO. So you're looking for a sponsor who's going to pony up 200 grand, not 100 grand. So,
well, right. And your total payout at that point is probably going to be coming up into the $750,000 to $1 million range.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's, that's like three to four times more than it was this year on the Pro Tour Championship. Is it crazy to imagine it getting 3 to 4 times more in the next 5 years? I mean, no, I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I'm going to take the conservative because I think when, if they were to do 35 this year or what have you, and then 50 in 2023, right? They still have a couple mile markers that they get to check that sound really nice before they hit the 100,000. Sure. So I think they've got some time before the pressure's on for this number. All right, what's your number 3?
That's going to be pretty exciting though. When someone gets like a,
$100,000 check.
You are like, okay, I'm good. My whole year is good. All right, my number 3 for me. This is getting a little audacious. A pro disc golfer announces that they will be traveling to tournaments via private jet. 2041.
Oh my goodness, Charlie.
2041.
I'm mad at you that I have to keep track of this thing for 20 years now.
Put the sticky note up here. The thing is, so in golf, there are plenty of golfers who are traveling by a private jet.
Sure.
Now, golfers are making, tens of millions of dollars a year. And the top disc golfers are making what? Maybe $2 million a year? Macbeth?
Maybe.
Ish. Somewhere, probably 1 to 2.
It's not unreasonable.
So we're not there yet, obviously. And we're probably not going to be there for some time. It's not like these people are so famous that they can't just fly commercial. But I think it will happen. If we continue to see the growth of the sport on the trajectory that we've seen for 10 years now. Because, you're going to get to a point where you have a player who's like famous enough to be recognized, annoying to go to the airport. And it's like, you know what? It's worth paying the $5,000 to $10,000 a flight or whatever to just fly to my events. And maybe they don't own their own plane, but they like take
pay.
They have like a jet share, and they like take private aircraft to tournament locale, and then they do the thing, and then they fly home. I know it sounds a little crazy, but I think you have to consider that like there's like compound growth happening in the industry right now. People are investing into new machines and more marketing and all of these things, and it's only getting easier to play. And the international development of disc golf is minimal outside of a couple of Nordic countries in Europe.
Yeah. And
so you have enormous growth potential by simply expanding the sport into other countries. I mean, it's a matter of time. So 2041, write it down. In 20 years, when my beard's gray, we'll take a look.
Okay.
Number 4 for me.
What's your number 4, Charlie?
Here we go. A little sooner. I mean, I might revise my date. I think I'm gonna. World Championships sells out 20,000 plus tickets for the final round. I'm going with 2030.
With 2030.
So, a little under 10 years.
I'll take the under.
Take the under.
I take the under.
Wow. Yeah. 20,000 tickets. As a point of reference, the Masters, which, by the way, has like a lottery system for getting tickets and stuff, they do $40,000 to $50,000 a day, people a day, estimated. And so, they could do more if they open. Yeah. I don't know what the natural limit is, but I mean, there would be a limit on a disc golf course too.
Sure. Oh, absolutely.
So, Worlds did what? 3,000 people on the final day this year.
Yeah.
And there was like people scalping tickets.
Mm-hmm.
Probably could have done 5,000, 4,000 to 5,000. So I'm saying 9 years from now, we'll see 20,000 plus.
I think within the next couple of years, we will have 10,000 disc golfers who would be willing to go to Worlds. And I think they're going to start making, like we've talked about before, community events with billboards. And you're going to start getting it because it's a fun thing to do on the weekend. I think we hit 20,000 faster.
Okay.
But
you taking the under. All right.
I'll take the under.
So those are my 4.
Okay.
What's your final?
My last number 4 is that a sporting goods company, Nike, Adidas, one of the big names, becomes a primary sponsor of a player by 2027. So this is my ambitious. I think the date's pretty quick. I did 5 years. We're basically done with 2021, so I said 5 years. Look, I think that someone like Macbeth is already at a place that he could go to Nike and say, you make my polos, you make me shoes, you make my bag. You look at my following. Look how much I sell every year, and it would be a profit for Nike. And it's only going to get better. And so I think that this is something that is inevitable. I think that in terms of apparel, right now it's kind of a weird place in disc golf where we have, some small companies that are in the game. You have the manufacturers that do some, but remember, Innova doesn't even have a good bag. Innova is probably the most natural fit for this deal. Their players don't even use their own bags. They throw grip bags, or a cart for Ricky. So, I think for a player then to get a big sponsor there for that kind of apparel is an area that disc golf is lacking and could be very quickly monetized.
Yeah, and feels like a low risk, high reward thing.
Right?
A Nike says, all right, we'll pay you $2 million for 5 years. Maybe that's not enough, but I guess it depends on what you mean by primary sponsor, because I do think that we're probably going to see separate disc sponsorship stuff going on, but I can see a bigger company coming in and throwing some money at somebody and saying, this is an opportunity for us to get in early with a player who could be, legitimately a C or D list celebrity.
Right.
How far away is Macbeth from that? I doubt for the most part Macbeth is getting, recognized on the street. I'm sure it happens because there's enough disc golfers in the world that it must happen. But I don't think it happens when he's walking down the street in New York City,
Right. Probably not.
But how far away are we from the point where he actually does become somebody who's low key famous?
I've got 5 years.
Okay.
that's my pick. But when I say primary sponsor, I'll clarify. I mean, lots of players have so many little sponsors that, on their Instagram posts, they're
sure.
Thank you to this. I imagine
juice cleanse,
Right. Some sort of towel or, Nate Sexton's are Idio shoes now. Yeah. I want when players are posting their win for a tournament, I want to see their manufacturer logo at the top left and their apparel company, Nike, Adidas, top right. And that's and then the other sponsors are listed somewhere else.
Sure.
But,
I get your point.
But that's what I mean.
Sponsor.
It feels as important as.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
I'll take the over on 2027, but I do think it will happen at some point.
Okay. All right.
We're dreaming big today on the Upshot. Let us know your picks. Send it to us at upshotultiworld.com. If you're a subscriber, hit us up in the Discord. We would love to hear some, and we'll probably read some more of these out. If you send them in, we'll put them in an upcoming mailbag segment where we take a look at some other ideas. What is your announcement to come? You got to put a date on it, or we won't read it. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going inside the circle. We got an over-under, got a quick mulligan, and we'll get you on your way on your Thursday. We'll be right back. The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. Pound guarantees all of their packs against defects in materials and workmanship for the lifetime of every pack. That's right, lifetime warranty. That's the kind of commitment they have to making a great disc golf bag. Go to pounddiscgolf.com to learn more about their great options. Welcome back to The Upshot. It's time to go inside the circle. Josh, take it away.
Thanks, Charlie. We've got a couple pieces of really exciting news. First one comes from an Instagram post from the Paul Macbeth Foundation. As we knew, they are putting in a couple courses down in South America. They announced that while they originally planned 2 9-hole courses, there will be a 9-hole and an 18-hole course in the city of Medellin.
Medellin, that's the one.
In Colombia, which they believe is going to be the first permanent 18-hole course in South America. I know Paul and Hannah and the Paul Macbeth Foundation's team are going to be on site in December to launch this course. But what exciting news, Charlie. I mean,
I am so impressed by the leadership that Paul has taken with this to come up with this idea of this foundation and then, announce it, immediately start doing projects and work with a bunch of companies in the sport. I mean, I just saw UDisc is doing like a $10,000 matching donation program with them, and this is the kind of stuff that's absolutely essential, right? Developing this infrastructure, not just in underserved third world places, but just literally putting in courses where they do not exist. And it's not just for obviously there's an element of it's great that people who maybe don't have access to disc golf or are poorer will be able to play on a really nice course with nice baskets and everything else. But it's also just an opportunity to very literally grow the footprint of the game. And right. I can tell you this, the Colombians, disc golf's going to get huge there, and it's not going to take very long. Colombia is one of the most developed ultimate frisbee hubs in the world.
Really?
Yes. Their World Games team, which is basically Ultimates Olympics. So the World Games is a quadrennial, every 4-year international tournament for non-Olympic sports. Disc golf was once in the World Games and maybe again in the future, but Ultimate's been in for about 20 years. And so this is a big deal in Ultimate. And Colombia made it all the way to the final, including beating the United States, which does not happen very often, in pool play. And then they lost to the U.S. in the final, took silver. They have some of the best women's players in the world. And in fact, I think there's a couple players, Ultimate players in Colombia, that if they start disc golfing could legitimately become major title winning threats within a couple of years. Elizabeth Mosquera is one of the best pullers in Ultimate. Period.
What's a puller? Do you want to?
Puller is the person who throws the disc like the kickoff.
Got it.
It's the most translatable thing to disc golf, right? You're trying to throw the disc 85 yards.
Okay.
So whatever that is, with an ultra star.
Sure.
And she is one of the best pullers in the world, period, man or woman.
Wow.
Crazy power, incredible athleticism. I've been saying for years, if she picks up disc golf, she could be amazing. And she's from Medellin. Medellin is the sort of the hub of the ultimate frisbee and disc sports environment. And I've actually been messaging with some folks that I know in Colombia, and they're talking about starting to try to get disc golf moving. And this was just a couple months ago. So presumably somebody decided to put in a request to get courses put in via the Paul Macbeth Foundation. Now it's happening. Do not be surprised if we see Colombia just explode with disc golf over the next 10 years. And we could see players coming out of Colombia who are legitimately going to be on tour.
Wow.
And I know
That's
that
exciting.
sounds like a little outlandish, but I'm telling you, the disc sports is already really established there. They've got like programs for ultimate frisbee for kids starting in like age 6, and it goes all the way through their whole time. I mean, they have probably 5 of the best women's players in the world. And, you know, on the men's side, not as much, but still like some wonderful players. So it's going to be
Wow.
it's going to be exciting to see how this shakes out.
It's exciting. Really exciting news then. I really appreciate that context. Next piece of news. This is a fun little news. Loft Discs is a Danish disc golf company who produced the hydrogen putter last year. They used it via Kickstarter, and they raised more than $230,000 for this putter that was branded as like the world's straightest putter. It was funded for their goal in 6 minutes. So just a little context. Well, they have announced a new Kickstarter campaign with the Boreum, which is a high-speed driver with a rounded rim. So on the inside, it doesn't have that sharp edge. It is rounded. And they have all sorts of science down, and you can read their Kickstarter. They have already raised $65,000, and their goal was $11,000.
Wow.
So there's still 32 days to go. So I don't know how long this has been up, but
Not
here's
long.
Charlie. Let me tell you what blows my mind.
Okay,
ready
tell
for
me.
this? Loft has somehow convinced 747 people to give them $65,000 for a 14-speed driver.
What do you think sells in disc golf, Josh? It's drivers and it's putters. Nobody wants another mid-range, okay? And so this is very interesting because they claim that this rounded design, this rounded rim design, allows for better glide and more distance. Now, obviously, this is catnip to any disc golfer, right? This is the disc. This is the disc that's going to get me to 400 feet. It's interesting because this has been tried. It's not like people haven't experimented with trying to make a rounded rim driver, but apparently it's been sort of unsuccessful in the past, that it makes the disc feel a little like inconsistent, difficult to throw and control in the way that a sharp-edged rim does. Now, you know, hypothetically, this will improve things because you're going to get, you know, sort of less turbulence and therefore, you know, sort of more aerodynamic flight. Maybe they figured it out. So I think you got to pony up if you want to get the discs in the Kickstarter. You got to pony up like 60-ish bucks, $55 bucks, and you get a pair, and then it goes up from there.
Are you gonna try one, Charlie?
No, not in the Kickstarter. Not in the Kickstarter. But I mean, you know, I would throw one someday.
They talk about how this 14 speed they made the rim wider than typical 14 speed discs, if you can believe that.
Wow.
And I'm just like, my small child hands will never be able to grip that disc. So that is not something I will be throwing, but that's just out of rim size preference.
So the flight numbers that they list are 14, 6, -1, 3. So, you know, it's in the ballpark of most sort of popular high-speed drivers.
Sure.
So we'll see. We'll see. They're saying it's the fastest driver there is.
They have a really compelling chart, I will admit, at the bottom or midway through that shows the Boreum versus another sharp rim driver, where they tell you exactly the hyzer angle and the velocity thrown and the distance gained. And it's everything from 300, like they do 300-foot throws to 700-foot throws. It has some compelling numbers.
Yeah, they're claiming that you're going to add 10 to 50 feet on your throws compared to a comparable driver with a sharp rim. It's good marketing.
It is good marketing. It's effective. Last two announcements. We got some hires out of the PDGA. We've talked about these positions being opened. One being the PDGA Director of Competition, which we said was an amazing step forward that we felt like the PDGA really needed. Jeff Jacquard is selected to be the new director of competition. And his background, he's the tournament director of the Las Vegas Challenge, so has extensive experience in running a tour series event. He also has a 30-year career in city planning and public administration, which, Charlie, since I've started my whole city council thing, I have a great appreciation for people who do that as a full-time profession. So it seems like he's going to be really good, has really good experience and qualifications for this position. And I'm excited to see the work that he does with the tour and the majors. Yeah,
in the PDGA press release, this came out a couple weeks ago, but Jacquard will have a wide range of responsibilities, including the planning and execution of major events, establishing competitive standards and requirements, managing bid processes, acquiring sponsors, performing site inspections, and more. So I think they've restructured the PDGA to have like more clear delineation of whose job it is to get stuff done. And this is basically, in my mind, them saying, we cannot continue to screw up the majors. Like, we have had some problems there. So they're putting somebody in place who has a track record of running, high quality events and growing events. And it's going to be buck stops with him on execution of PDGA majors. And this is a good thing.
Yes, it is. The other hire was for the position of Director of Membership and Growth. This position is designed to oversee membership support and programs designed to grow awareness and participation of disc golf within emerging markets and underserved demographics, including youth and education, international development, and task force, including like seniors, women, military, and diversity and outreach. Brian Graham was selected as that director. It says on his background, there's a press release on Sports Travel magazine that talks about how he's most recently the CEO of Augusta Sports Council in Georgia, and that he has received the Steady Ed Hendrick Award for continuing the legacy of disc golf and was inducted into the Hall of Fame the Disc Golf Hall of Fame in 2017.
And don't bury the lead. He is the former executive director of the PDGA. So he's returning to the PDGA to do this new job. He had an interesting tenure at the PDGA. There was a lot of growth during his tenure. He was the executive director before Joe Chargoloff took over. And he had a little bit of a reputation for being combative, I would say, but really helped grow the PDGA, and I think is clearly just like a lifer disc golfer. Cool to see him coming back to the organization and being willing to come back to the organization in a role below the executive director.
Yeah. So seems two exciting hires, in my opinion, for the PDGA. That's it for Inside the Circle, Charlie.
All right. Very good. Exciting stuff. And the off season rolls along. Over under. Let's do it. I've got one for you, Josh.
Okay.
We should be finding out more soon from the Disc Golf Pro Tour about the way that the season is going to be structured next year. Now, we know the events for the most part. We know most of the Silver Series events. What we don't know is the point structure. Now, we know, you have the regular season events. You have the Silver Series, which are worth less. They were 25% of a regular tournament this year, with sort of a cap on how many points you could earn from the Silver Series overall. But the news, we know this, the majors are going to be worth more, and they're going to be included in the Disc Golf Pro Tour point standings, even though those events are not operated by the Pro Tour.
Okay.
So my question for the over-under is, over under 2.5 times greater points earning structure for the majors compared to a regular season DGPT event. So if you get, maximum 100 points for winning a DGPT event, over under, 250, right? 2.5 times more for winning a major.
So basically, if you win a major, you're a lock for the Pro Tour Championship. And most likely a lock.
Not a lock, but I would say it's pretty likely. I mean,
at least for the top 40 spots.
I would think so.
You gotta be. There's no way. That's so many points.
I would think so.
I mean, I guess depending where the line is. I'm going to take the under. And I think that the move is going to be because the Pro Tour wants the points winner to be not the one who just wins the PDGA majors, but wins their tour. So for publicity reasons, I think you try and reward the consistent player on your tour rather than the one who wins the events that you still don't have control of. So I'm taking the publicity reasoning. I'm going the under.
So you think it'll be like double?
Yeah.
Or less than double?
Or 1.5.
1.5.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I get the over.
Okay. Hopefully this comes out soon.
I think it's supposed to. I believe.
Okay.
I mean, for one, we're only a couple months away from the start of the season.
It's true.
It's now December. February's coming up quick, and there's just a bunch of announcements to come. Like, we still don't know about the All-Star event this year or next year. We haven't heard about the match play tournament. We need to hear about the full point structure, and I believe they said early December for a lot of this stuff. So it's coming.
Okay. Great.
So that's the over-under. Final thing today, quick mulligan. I don't know if it's a mulligan. It's sort of a mulligan. It's enough of a mulligan to call it a mulligan. A few folks emailed us after we were talking about European players who are going to come over and tour in the United States. And there were a number of people who pointed out that Linus Carlson is likely to come over. He's 1034 rated. He was second at the European Championships, actually set a course record at Kona Piste, and was pretty dominant in Sweden. And we declined to include him in the list of people who we expected to come over. Apparently, there are rumors that he is going to come over. So we could see Linus Carlson. I think there's probably a lot of pent-up demand in general from European players who want to come and play in the U.S. to some extent.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody also mentioned Lori Lettinen, who's only 18 years old, but is climbing quickly. And I think we could see him come over as well. So shout out to our European listeners for keeping us posted.
I've actually been watching the European Disc Golf Championships on YouTube.
Nice.
When I have free time, that's what I do. I go look for old videos, and that's the one that I had not watched yet, and it's quite enjoyable. So I highly recommend going and looking at it. It's the first time I've seen Marvin Tetzel on coverage.
Oh, okay.
That we've talked about. So, it's a good coverage. Go check it out if you're looking for something to watch in the off season.
All right. Sounds good. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of The Upshot. Hey, tell a friend about the show, and we'd appreciate your like and subscribe over on YouTube, and give us a rating on your podcast app of choice. Thanks very much, and we'll talk to you next week right here on The Upshot.